developing thanks to the people moving from surrounding Azerbaijani villages and that demobilized Kazakhs. In the military town situated in the territory of Xankəndi, part of Don Kazakhs, after finishing their service for 25 years, didn't return to their homelands and preferred to stay in Karabakh. In the 60s of the 19th century, on the initiative of the Russian military command, the first military Junker school in Karabakh began to operate in Xankəndi, and admission was open only to noblemen's children. Azerbaijani children also studied at this school. Poet Mirza Ələsgər Növrəsti, Rustam Bey Mirzayev, who rose to the rank of colonel, Şükür and Ibiş, the Jawanshirs, and others could be examples to that. One of the historical facts is that during 1847 and 1848, son of Abbas Mirza and heir to the throne, Bahman Mirza Qajar escaped the palace intrigues and sought shelter from Russians. The Russian government greeted him triumphantly and granted him the right to choose where he wanted to live in Russia. After some hesitation, Bahman Mirza expressed his wish to stay in Shusha. In the Acts of Caucasus Archaeographic Commission, it is said that Prince Bahman Mirza was promenading with his family near Xankəndi, and his security was ensured by Russian militaries in 1854. Prince Bahman Mirza with his family frequently promenades around Shusha, sometimes near Mingral Jaeger Regiment's headquarters, Xankəndi settlement. In 1861, the last governor of Karabakh, Mehdigulu Khan's wife, Bedircahan Beyim, died. According to the law of inheritance, all the properties of Bedircahan Beyim, including Xankəndi, passed to her only daughter, Khurshudbanu Natavan. But according to a historical fact, sometime after Bedircahan Beyim's death, the Russian government refused to pay a rent fee in the amount of 400 rubles per year for Xankəndi. In this regard, the note from Khurshudbanu Natavan addressed to Russian Colonel Dubits in 1869 emphasizes. District Engineer Department, in its response dated February the 20th of this year, and with the number of 1477, confirms that they have allocated to Shusha County Treasury 400 rubles for the land of Xankəndi to be transferred to me. However, in the previous response, dated March the 15th, and with the number of 2486, I was informed that they have stopped payment to me, because according to the documents that Captain Sherbakov has gathered, my right to the mentioned lands is not confirmed with the required documents. This document, which clearly demonstrates Khurshudbanu Natavan's unequal struggle to prove that Xankəndi is an ancient Azerbaijani land and those lands belong to Azerbaijanis, states further. It is more than 22 years that government has rented this land that I have inherited from my deceased mother, and I am receiving the fee that was defined earlier. If there was a bit of a doubt in my mother's or my right to this land, then the order about my suspension of payments would be issued. With this letter, Khurshudbanu Natavan proved her right of inheritance to Xankəndi, and Russian government paid her the fee that was not paid. The important thing is that Russian Empire was trying to annoy Khurshudbanu Natavan by continuously creating such kinds of artificial problems, and as a result make her waive her right to inheritance to Xankəndi. Along with the artificial settlement of the Armenians in this settlement, the Russian government also implemented other plans to appropriate Xankəndi. In 1882, according to the newly organized cameral description of Xankəndi of Shusha County, the Russian government moved 57 Russian families from Shusha to Xankəndi in order to increase the Christian population of the settlement. From 1897, two-class secular school started to function for the first time in Xankəndi. The teachers, mainly from Russia, gave lessons in that school. Alexei Ivanovich Turygin, who had come from Saratov to Xankəndi, taught pupils the Russian language along with the other subjects. In 1915-1917, Susanna Yakovlevna Barutina was headmaster of that school. The discovery of the archival documents testifies that the population of Xankəndi was inclined to education. For example, even before the revolution, at the time when double standards existed about the education of girls in Azerbaijani families, 5 daughters out of 7 children of the commander of the 77th Regiment, Mehmed Bey Ahmedbayev, who lived in Xankəndi during the Tsarist government, received higher education. 2 daughters of Mehmed Bey, Sona Khanım and Meryem Khanım, worked as teachers in Tbilisi, and other 2 daughters, Raziya Khanım and Tamara Khanım, worked as teachers in Baku. Another daughter of Mehmed Bey Ahmedbayev, Ayna Khanım, received the medical education in Moscow and was the first Azerbaijani female dentist. In the 19th century, the Armenians who escaped punishment after committing terror against Muslims in the territory of Turkey and the Armenians immigrated from Iran, as usual, were placed in Xankəndi, which was developing after Tsarist occupation. As of 1900, over 3,000 people lived in Xankəndi. Although the number of Russian and Armenian population was increasing in Xankəndi as a consequence of deliberately pursued ethnic policy, a lot of representatives of former Khans and Beys descendants, Azerbaijani intellectuals, musicians, and craftsmen lived in the city. Their wares were waiting in Xankəndi, and authorities had to consider them at times. In the beginning of the 20th century, during the Armenian-Muslim War in 1905-1906, Armenian terrorists committed slaughter against the Muslim population of Xankəndi. The great poet, artist, calligrapher, and musician, scientist Mir Mohsen Nawab, who was the live witness of the events happening at that period, remembers one of these days like this. For bringing to life their objectives, Armenians surrounded Malibeyli from Qibla and west. People who were awake from the dawn learned about the attack and informed others. The Muslims who were entrenched shot a couple of times as soon as they saw those many Armenians. But Armenians rifled every trench 100 times. Therefore, people who were entrenched left the trenches and ran into the village as they were horrified by lots of shots. Armenians captured the trenches and entered the village. One of the horsemen from Muslims headed to Xankəndi, and the other rider went to the castle to inform them and requested assistance from them. The squad of Muslims and Cossacks from Xankəndi came to Malibeyli. Before the arrival of the help from Gala and Xankəndi, the youth of Malibeyli attacked Armenians all around. After Armenians were pushed out from Malibeyli, the squads from Xankəndi and Gala entered Malibeyli with bluster and joined the Malibeyli defenders, saying the Salawat and Ya Ali, and bravely attacked Armenians. 15 more Armenians were killed in a result of intense shooting. The valuable memories of Mir Mohsen Nawab give us ground to say that Armenian Dashnaks, with the help of Russian soldiers, tried to annihilate the Muslims of Xankəndi and to banish them from their motherlands by different tricks. Stealing 200 cattle of a Muslim by Armenians near Xankəndi, the assassination of an Armenian woman with a child at the place between the Malibeyli and Xankəndi by Armenians and blaming Muslims for that were all efforts aimed at inciting the war. Russian generals, although were supporting Armenians in these secret games, tried to whitewash themselves when Dashnaks were defeated. Mir Mohsen Nawab writes, "The general came to Xankəndi with his squad in order to collect weapons from the citizens. With the general's instructions for inciting the conflict between Armenians and Muslims and secretly providing Armenians with weapons to reach Armenians' houses were blasted with dynamites. General took the cannons from those houses and went to Malabali village with his squad. The other live witness of 1905-1906 events, a well-known publicist and journalist Mehmed Said Ordubadi, in his work Bloody Years, shows that Russian militaries that were placed in Xankəndi were the participants of those incidents, at least staying as observers and doing nothing to prevent the conflict. Armenians first tried to take away the bodies of their killed fellows, then threw their corpses to the feet of Azerbaijanis as yellow lists. According to the Russians, in Xankəndi, up to 400 Armenian corpses were transported in carts out of the city. The number of corpses that were hidden in the city was not known. In March of 1912, in the 79th issue of the newspaper Kafkaskaya Kopeyka, it was informed that Yelizavetpol District Court considered the criminal cases of 16 Armenians from Xankəndi villages of Shusha County accused in massive slaughter of Xankəndi Muslims during 1905 Armenian Muslim massacre. Although the attack, which was planned with the purpose of inciting national hatred on Xankəndi Muslims and their object was proved, the judge found all 16 Armenians not guilty and released them. On the other hand, during the court case, it was emphasized that Armenians were behind these events that happened in Xankəndi in 1905. The article states further, as it seems only some rich and well-known elements of Xankəndi's Armenian population were involved in this. This policy still continued in 1918-1920. The Armenian Dashnaks who achieved to establish the state called Armenia in the territory of ancient Azerbaijani land, Yerevan, in May 1918, wouldn't let go of Karabakh with the purpose of realizing their illusion of Great Armenia. In 1918-1920, during the Azerbaijani Democratic Republic period, Azerbaijani military bases were placed in Xankəndi. The actions taken by Democratic Republic enabled to maintain the territorial integrity during Armenian invasion. However, in May 1920, after the 11th Red Army occupied Azerbaijan, Russian troops and Armenian gangs were placed in Nagorno-Karabakh, including Xankəndi. After the establishment of the Soviet regime in Azerbaijan, Armenia's groundless territorial claims against Azerbaijan and efforts to separate Nagorno-Karabakh from Azerbaijan and to combine it to Armenia rose again. For this end, Armenian Dashnaks tried to reach their dirty intentions by political, diplomatic, and even military actions. In 1920s, the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh became very serious and severe as a disputed territory.